Okay, tonight we are talking about the reproductive system. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad we're doing this over the video through the flipped lesson. That way I don't have to look at your blushing faces as we say some embarrassing words. Now, it's important to remember that knowledge of the human reproductive system should not be suppressed or not talked about or avoided because some people have chosen to sinfully misuse the whole entire reproductive process. So that's why we are going to talk about it. It's important that you know about these parts of the human body. It's also important to note that the reproductive system is not necessary for survival of an individual, but it is vital for continuation of the human race. Now, a lot of the hormones that we're going to be talking about in the reproductive system do allow you to maintain, quote-unquote, a normal lifestyle, but not necessary for actual survival. For this topic in this lesson, we're going to be looking at the physical structures and their functions. So first of all, the first definition that I want to go over is adolescence. This is the time of development in an organism between childhood and adulthood, usually anywhere between the ages of 8 and 16, depending on if you are male or female. Now, I think you have a question on your notes that say, why do children between ages of 0 and 9 look more similar than different? And that's due to puberty. They have not gone through puberty yet. So it's at puberty that we really began to see a lot of the differences between males and females. We've already talked about the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a series of glands located all throughout the body that produce hormones. And it's these hormones that we're going to really talk about in the reproductive system, dealing with testosterone or estrogen. These glands are located in your head, neck, torso, and they will send a chemical message throughout your body for different things to occur. Sex cells are specialized cells that carry half the genetic information for an organism. Eggs for women and sperm for men. The thyroid. This is the main organ in the endocrine system. And this is the gland in your neck that actually produces the hormones. And these hormones are sent out and help the body decide when to actually start adolescence. These hormones are kind of like signals. They send a message to talk about or to direct growth and metabolism. They kind of work like a phone call telling the body and the different parts when to change. These hormones are responsible for a variety of different puberty changes, like the widening of the hips in females that gives them their shape. Okay, now the second part of this, the hormone for women or females is called estrogen, and this stimulates the growth of reproductive parts like the release of eggs and the growth of ovaries. The hormone estrogen is also responsible for some skeletal changes in females. All right, let's talk about ovaries. Ovaries are the female reproductive organs. They hold the eggs, they release the eggs. The ovaries are about the size of a large almond. Now, interesting enough, females are born with about 200,000 immature eggs, and only a few of these will mature each month for about 35 years of the female adult life, and they're usually going to rotate. So this ovary here will produce an egg 1 month, and then this ovary will produce an egg for the next month. Okay, eggs are found in the ovaries. The female sex cell contains half of the genetic information. So I said earlier that females are born with all the eggs, but they don't become fertile or mature until puberty. Now, ovulation, this is the time in which an egg is released from the ovary and goes into the fallopian tube. Now, inside these fallopian tubes, this is the fallopian tube right here, one on each side. The fallopian tubes have cilia inside of them that are going to create a current that will push that egg down into the uterus. Okay, so these are the fallopian tubes here. More on the fallopian tubes. They are tubes that connect the ovaries, these are the ovaries, to the uterus. This large area here is the uterus. Without these tubes, the eggs would have no way to get there. All right, this circled area here is the uterus, and then right here, this is the cervix. The uterus is the central organ in the female's body that provides nutrients to a developing embryo. Kind of like a lunchroom for the fetus, because it provides a safe place to receive nutrition. The uterus is kind of a pear-shaped organ, and it's held in place by ligaments. All right, along the uterus there is a lining, and this is composed of specialized tissues that do provide the nutrients for the embryo. It's kind of like the first milk bottle for the baby, because it feeds the baby, and which provides nutrients for growth. Okay, this narrow tube-like structure below the uterus is called the vagina, and this is used to deliver a fully developed baby. And this uterus actually has an ability to expand large enough for the baby to exit through the body during childbirth. Menstruation, this is the process in females starting with ovulation, in which an egg is released from the ovary. It travels down the fallopian tube, leaves the body, out of the vagina, with the dissolved lining of the uterus. And this happens about every 28 days in humans. Without this cycle, none of us would be here today. Okay, the next part, before we actually go on to the next part, let me see where I want to say some of this stuff. Okay, I'll wait till section 4. Okay, so now let's talk about boys. The male reproductive organ that produces sperm are called the testes. And these actually hang away from the body so they can stay slightly cooler. That's important for the sperm in order to function properly in fertilization. Testosterone, that's the male hormone. Females have estrogen, men have testosterone. This is the hormone that sends the message for the male to develop and to actually start producing sperm. The male organ used for both urination and to deliver sperm to the egg is the penis. Now, this shape of the penis assists in reproduction by allowing the sperm to travel farther outside the body. Okay, so while females have eggs, males have sperm. This is the male sex cell that carries half the genetic information. Sperm is a very different type of cell because it has a tail for locomotion, so it can swim up into the fallopian tubes. Now, it doesn't do this all by itself. It has a fluid that carries nutrients for the sperm and also helps to carry it to where it needs to go, to the egg. So semen is a lot like Gatorade because it allows the sperm to perform longer, and so it can make it all the way to its destination and then fertilize the egg. The urethra, this is the tube in the penis that delivers urine, but it also delivers sperm. So because of the urethra, it's almost like the penis has a flexible straw inside of it to deliver the necessary components. When excess sperm is delivered from the male while he sleeps, this is called a nocturnal emission. This is actually a good sign that the reproductive system is working within the male. Our last section, I told you guys this would be fast. The act of joining the female reproductive organs with the male reproductive organs is called intercourse. So we have some diagrams here. This is the vagina of the female and the penis of the male. Scientists, of course, have discovered different ways where impregnation can happen, but the most common method, the most natural, God-given method is through intercourse. Fertilization is when a female sex cell is combined with a male sex cell, the sperm to the egg. Many thousands of sperm head their way to the egg, but it only takes one. And as soon as that one sperm right here makes its way into the egg, fertilization has occurred, and the rest of the other sperm are no longer needed. The cell duplication is the process after fertilization, when new cells are dividing with the newly formed genetic material. And they have half from the male and half from the father, and half from the mother. So this ball of duplicating cells for the first 8 weeks is called an embryo. And implantation is when the embryo attaches to the lining of the uterus. I believe that's a question in your notes. I think it's number 5. In order to receive nutrients from the mother a female organism. Finally, after implantation, the ball of duplicating cells can start receiving lots and lots of nutrients from the mother. The umbilical cord is actually the delivery method of the nutrients, and this is a tube-like attachment. It develops once there is the duplicating cells, once there is an embryo inside. Gestation is the length of time for fertilization. They say it's 9 months, but some doctors will say it's more like 40 weeks. So either one of those is a good estimation of the time. Okay, I think you have some more questions on there, like where does ovulation occur? Ovulation occurs outside of the ovaries. Once the egg has left the ovaries, that's when ovulation occurs. Fertilization can occur anywhere outside of the ovaries all the way up to the uterus. Now, what happens to the egg cell after fertilization? Well, now it becomes one. You had egg and sperm, but now it becomes one, and it starts to duplicate, and it forms first the embryo and then finally the fetus. The correct term for the ball of duplicating cells at first is an embryo, but around 8 weeks we then call it a fetus. And implantation occurs in the uterus. Okay, that's all that I have for these notes, and we will talk about this a little bit more in class. I may even have some extra activities dealing with these vocabulary words. The quiz for this is not going to be until next week. So tomorrow's quiz will actually be the circulatory system, the nervous system, and the endocrine system. Okay, have a good night. That's it.